G'day guys, make up the circle. As you can see, the petition is well over 6,000 people now. That's far, far more than I originally thought we'd get, so blown away by the response we've had from people. I have noticed a lot of comments, however, especially on the YouTube chats, as well as on Facebook, from basically misinformed people, talking about high import tariffs, the fact that the costs all equal out, that Australians, New Zealanders, Americans aren't paying any more than anyone else is. And in fact, really, it's justified because Australians earn 80,000 each, 80,000 Australian dollars each. So something like 50, 60,000 pounds average wage. Um, that's all bullshit, I'm afraid. So today we're going to quickly cover off on a few of the little quirks that are going on here. We're going to look at what some of the markups are on different products. We're also going to look at what the actual Australian wage is. And of course, we're going to look at a few other odds and bobs. So, first things first, how much is the actual Australian earning? Well, $55,000 if they're lucky. Most people, only about $45,000 on their actual tax. That's around the £26,000 mark. So, yeah, nowhere near the 85,000, which is actually quoted. That 85,000 is a sort of misrepresentation. They just took the average wage earned by a certain demographic of people and said, well, if all Australians earned that much, then they would all be on 85,000 per year. Of course, Australians don't all earn that much. Very few Australians earn $1,600 a week, in fact. So, the first little thing tackled. Australians earn about 45 to 55,000, depending on if they're in full-time work or not. So we don't earn 40% more than people in the UK. Best case scenario, maybe 14%, and that's an absolute best case. Alright, so moving on to the next thing. Let's look at some actual costs. So someone's put together this helpful spreadsheet. It wasn't me. I was just sent this. I don't even know who the original source was. But they've gone through and listed in different exchange rates. The top one being the current exchange rate for Australian dollars to pounds. The middle one being the lowest point that Australia's been at in the last decade compared to the pound. And as you can see, at the lowest possible point the Australian economy has been at during the global financial crisis, when economies around the world absolutely tanked, that's where the Forge World price almost equals out with the Australian dollar in a fair exchange. Almost. As you can see, in every case, they're earning more money. This is why they've priced it at such a high fixed rate, because they're banking on if the pound collapses or foreign currencies rise against the pound. And they're going, well, if that happens, we don't want to lose money. Of course, every single other model manufacturer is not charging at a fixed rate. They're charging at a flexible currency exchange rate. But Games Workshop has to be different and buck the trend. This is because in the meantime, the other 10 years out of the decade, well, the other 9.995 years out of the decade, where other currencies have not tanked against the pound, they just get to make, as you can see in the top, 30, 40% profits additional on top of what they're actually spending. It's just ludicrous, really, and it's just greed. Complete and utter greed that has led them to this situation. Essentially, they're going, if the pound does fall, we don't ever risk losing money. And they won't. However, in the meantime, and you gotta remember, this is the majority of time, they're making bulk bank off the backs of hard-working people in Australia, New Zealand, America, etc. That is what's so bad about these fixed prices. They didn't set the fixed price somewhere between the lowest point and the current point. They set it at the very lowest possible point, just in case. Instead of moving the goalposts if there's a financial crash, they've chosen to put the goalpost in a certain point now in order to make as much money as they can off doing literally nothing. It is disgusting. And of course, for the final little image today, I'm going to show you how this works. So a lot of people are saying, oh no, you don't understand how conversions work. They're actually a lot closer than you think. On the left hand side is an example. An £100 model has a 20% VAT applied to it. The actual cost of the model is £80, which is 176 Australian dollars. However, the actual cost of the model is £80, which when you convert it to Australian dollars is 140 Australian dollars. Then it has a 10% GST or goods and services tax applied, which would raise the cost to 154 Australian dollars, and an import duty of approximately 6% on purchases over $1,000. What does this mean? Well, you're taking the British taxes off the product because they're not applicable. You then apply your regional taxes to the product which are applicable, and at that point, after you've done your currency exchanges, you should end up with the correct figure. Take, for example, a Mastodon, sold for 310 British pounds, or 720 Australian dollars on their website. The actual cost is 248 Great British Pounds once you adjust for VAT, which is 434 Australian dollars, which is approximately $300 or over 40% less than what is being charged. And once you apply the 10% GST, that's a total of 477.4 Australian dollars. And no import duty, as the product has cost under $1,000, and that import duty is not paid to Forge World anyway. It is paid to Australian customs upon arrival in the country. Now, the difference of product price on the Mastodon alone is 242.6 Australian dollars, which equals 138.39 Great British Pounds. That is the overcharge. Now, an argument can be made for shipping. Shipping is 69 Australian with insurance. Now, how big is that gap? How do you show people in the UK what the difference in price is? Well, the amount that Australians are being overcharged for the Mastodon alone is the equivalent of buying Roboute Guilliman, Dark Imperium, and an easy to build set of Primaris Space Marines as pictured on the screen. That is appalling for an overcharge. So, do you see where the problems lie? If you're a person who lives in the United Kingdom and you're looking at Games Workshop right now and you're thinking, no, it's not that bad a situation. Really, the Australians are getting they're getting off pretty light. No, we're not. The same problem is obviously occurring in New Zealand and to a lesser degree America, Europe, Asia Pacific, Africa. There are some countries in Africa which are able to get access to Games Workshop products. South America. So obviously this is a big problem. If they're going to charge a fixed conversion rate, the very least they could do is charge something that's closer to the current and accepted sort of normal. People are saying, oh yes, but if the pound devalues when Brexit comes, what then? Well, that's the point where a sort of flexible currency exchange will work in their favour. You'll have more people buying your product, which in turn will give you actual product moved. You'll actually be going for quantity shipped as opposed to making the maximum margin on each individual item, which is a good thing in business, and that's how economies around the world work. You see economies drop, more people buy from those economies, and that in turn puts more money back into them, allowing those economies to rise again. Games Workshop, though, they don't work like that. And that's part of what makes this so egregious, is because they've chosen a pricing model that they know rips off other countries to the tune of, well, what you can see, and that's appalling. So every time you think, oh no, it's okay, it's totally fair what Games Workshop is doing, think back to this example. That if an Australian buys a Mastodon today, the same Mastodon he could have bought 4 days ago, it's now costing him the equivalent extra of Roboute Guilliman, Dark Imperium, and an easy to build Primaris Space Marine set. And if you think that's right, that's not very good. I'm Mike with the Outer Circle. Thank you all for watching, I'll see you all next time.